How you doing, everyone? Welcome back to episode of Krypto Playboy. My name is Simul. Guys, to begin, chuck a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more content coming out. And don't forget the Discord in there. The best tips, the best pre-sales, and the best community of crypto. Big things about to happen in there. About a week's time. So if you're in it, you're gonna love it. If you're not in it, join it now. Let's get into today's episode. Now. All right. Today's show, we've got a very special guest on the show. His name is Ed, and he's better known as Venture Founder on Twitter. And if you're following him, you know what he does. If you're not following him, quick rundown. He's one of the best analysis I have found in the Twitter space, and he's got some of the biggest names following him. Plan C follows Venture Founder. What does that tell you? This man knows what he's doing. Now, when I've spoken to him, he's very humble. He's a very caring person, is a feeling I get from him. And he's there for the community. And he's been through a lot of cycles in the market. So he knows what he's doing. So someone like this, when they come on the show, you should really take in everything they're saying, absorb their knowledge, understand why they're telling you this, because they've been through a lot before. If it's your first time in crypto and you're watching a person like this is someone that should inspire you to stay in the space and get more involved every single day. Like, I know it's hard to stay committed. We're in a bear market right now. You're not making no gains. You're in portfolios probably 80, 90% losses at the moment. And you don't know what to do. Like, you're hating it because you're down, down, down. It's not a nice feeling. But when you hear stories like this, it tells you there's a bright side to this. We're in a downtrend right now. Things aren't doing the best. But there's always an upside in the future. And this is where you should be building those building blocks to say, all right, I'm going to set myself up for the next bull run. I'm going to be prepared. And stories like this will inspire you. And this is someone that I'd advise you guys to follow in this space because he's a genuine influencer. All right, people like myself, we want to help people in the community. People are venture founder. They want to help people grow in the space. Ian Bellina had another day. Is another person, I believe, they're trying to help in the space and grow. You grow together. I grow, you guys grow. This man grows in the space, you grow together. They're sharing that knowledge, and these are the ones you should be following. When I say filter out the shitty influences out there, filter out those ones and join people like this. Guys that can help you grow, help you understand the space. And you're going to love this interview. So let's get into it. All right, welcome Ed on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, Sam. It's great to talk to you again, and I'm glad to be here and share some of my thoughts with your audience as well.
I'm glad to have you on. Follow a lot of your content, and what you put out there's really, really great content which people should be watching. So I'll put the links down below, and people should check it out and watch what he says, because words of wisdom from this man. For the people that don't know you, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm based in Canada, and I'm actually a CPA in background, and I've spent the past couple of years working in the crypto industry. So in crypto, I started as an investor in the crypto world, and I currently am an advisor for a couple of Web3 projects. And I'm also an investor in the space as well, investing in early stage crypto projects, as well as holding a good amount of my investments in crypto, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the public tokens as well.
Awesome. What did you do before you started crypto?
Before I started in crypto, I co-founded a couple of businesses. They are not in the crypto industry, but I did learn a great deal about startups, about operating startups, and that all that skill sets really come into use in the crypto world, because most crypto projects are very early stage startups, so they're experiencing some similar problems and issues as any startups outside the crypto industry would experience as well.
And you brought that knowledge from the real world space into the crypto space now.
Absolutely, and I think that's what's so great about being in this industry. You're kind of forced to work with startup businesses, and all projects that you work with, maybe except for Bitcoin and Ethereum, all the rest of them are considered startup in this stage.
That's very true. So what got you into the world of crypto? Like, what caught your attention?
Well, in 2017, I remember it was a friend of mine who told me first about it. I was at first quite skeptical. At that point, I'd been an equity investor for about 5 years already. So I invested, all my money was in stock market. I'm very familiar with investing in stocks, things that have quote unquote fundamentals, right? And when I first heard about the crypto world, I was quite skeptical about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there was all this kind of mainstream media narrative going around about Bitcoin being a bubble. People making fun of people who invest in Bitcoin and in 2017. And it's funny that you see those kind of narrative reoccurring in almost every cycle, but the early investors are almost always kept at bay because of those mainstream media narratives. And I first dabbled into crypto a little bit, and obviously after you have skin in the game, after you invest in it, you're kind of forced to learn more about it. And the more I learn about crypto, about Bitcoin and Ethereum back in 2017, the more I become hooked and fascinated about this industry. I think at the time there wasn't that much innovation, but there was enough innovation to keep me very interested in the market on a daily basis. And after the bubble sort of bursted in beginning of 2018, my interest kind of dropped off. So did my portfolio. So I kind of took a break for the next couple of years until 2020 when I returned back into crypto, and that was because of DeFi. If you remember back in 2020, that was the year of DeFi, decentralized finance. We saw the rise of Aave, Uniswap, and many different DeFi protocols really thriving. And I was fortunate enough to be an early investor of many of those projects and the tokens. So I got hooked into the DeFi once more, and I really saw this wave of a new innovation. It was something that I haven't seen for the past 2 years. And so I decided to, put more work in this industry and become an advisor and investor in the space because the kind of innovation I saw in crypto was starting once again. And now I think 2021 was probably the year of NFTs, right? A lot more new narratives and new wave of innovation have kicked in, and 2022 is the year of the bear market. So now here we are after this wave of innovation we saw in the past 2 years. Things kind of calm down and die down a little bit, and I think in 2023 and 2024, once again we're going to see new innovations in crypto that we haven't seen before, and we're excited to be in the front stage of that as well.
It's always good to stay. That's on top of it. When you stay in the market, you're going to learn these next trends because they always come out when the bad times are around and no one's there to jump on board with it.
Absolutely. I really wish I stayed more in touch with crypto, with the market in 2018 and 19. I kind of dropped off because things were getting really bearish. Those were a very long crypto winter, right? People were disappointed. I think many people didn't know if this industry was going to survive or exist in a couple of years at that time. But it did, right? Because the people, the brilliant and smart people in the industry, they stayed. They built their products, and many of those DeFi protocols I mentioned earlier, they started in the bear market in 2019 and 2018. Smart people brought a lot of their energy and their innovation to the space, and they built something. So I think following the talents is very important.
I agree with you on that because, like, same thing. 2017, best year of my life. There, 2018 came along, crash, and it hit you hard. Like emotionally, it hit you, and they kind of made you want to stay away from the market. But then, as you seen those trends starting to roll back in, you got intrigued again, and you got back into it. So, I think that kind of led to my next question. Like, what intrigued you about those DeFi projects when you saw them in 2020?
I think really, I back in 2017 when I invested in tokens and stuff, I didn't really see projects that went out of their way to did something that was meant to be done on the blockchain. They were kind of like, if you remember back in 2017, we got a couple of Internet of Things blockchains, right? They were all of a sudden going to revolutionize supply chain, shipping, and all those kind of things. But it makes you wonder, how does that even work, right? How does that complex activity that requires real world transactions exist with blockchain? How does that coexist, right? It doesn't really fit well with blockchain. I think my central thesis about blockchain is that finance is it's the number one thing that is going to be disrupted by blockchain because it just fits. It is the perfect use case for blockchain. So when I saw DeFi, that was like a spark in my eye because that's what I always thought blockchain could do, and they actually delivered it. So that's blockchain and NFT as well. NFT was something that's meant to be done on the blockchain. I think these are technologies that are meant to exist on the blockchain as a perfect fitted use cases instead of a use case that is made up because people are trying to create something out of nothing. Whereas for DeFi and NFTs, they were something that they were always meant to be done on the blockchain. They were best done on the blockchain, and they did it, and that's what draw my interest.
There's a use case for them, not just a bunch of hype behind it. Agree with you on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one thing that I can speak of is the ability to, be able to have your own bank account, right, on your phone. So, if you have a cell phone, and you could be in a country where, the GDP is very low, and you live in like a rural area, and you don't even have banks that will provide you services. So you're literally bankless. People who don't live in countries like Australia or Canada, where pretty much every citizen is a target. It's a serviceable market for the banks. But in some countries, in the rural areas, you're not a target. You're not a target audience for the banks. You're not going to be having a bank account probably in the next 20 years until the bank expands their business and the GDP rises and they deem you to be marketable to their bank. But in between this time, you could still have a bank account by being on the blockchain. All you need is your smartphone, the internet, a hot wallet or a cold wallet to store your cryptocurrency. And you could even be storing your USDCs or stable coins on it, or Bitcoin, right? And I think that's a big use case for blockchain to actually do good for people who actually need it.
Like, even in developed nations like Australia, like I've been to the bank here, and you go to take out $10,000 or more, and they question you like, "What are you doing with your money? We can't let you have that much out of it. It's going to take a couple of days." That's why crypto caught my eye because you're in charge of your own funds there. It's decentralized, and you want to send 100 grand, go for it. There's no questions asked. Like you are in control. I think, like you said, it fitting with Binance, fitting with DeFi and the blockchain, it's a no-brainer. Go for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you probably experience the same in Australia, but it is very difficult to even send uh, the cash in your bank to a crypto exchange,
Yes.
so you can buy Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. There's all sort of blacklists and regulations around it. They won't let you send a lot. They'll try to block your transfer. It's just how traditional finance is dealing with things, and it's a very old school system.
Mhm.
And we can't say it's a flawed system because it is something that has worked for the past 150 years. The American banking system was solid, and what they've done, it's amazing. It's great. They've taken an industry from the Wild West where in where your money is unsecured to being able to secure inside a bank where you have actual insurance on your money so that even if your bank were robbed by other people, you still have that money available because your bank amount is insured up to a specific amount, of course. But it's perhaps no longer the only way of dealing with your bank. That's the change that crypto and DeFi is bringing into the industry.
It's a change we needed.
Absolutely.
Okay, another question for you. Like, where do you see Bitcoin heading for the rest of this year? We haven't had a rough ride. Is there hope, or are we still in for some bad times?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very tough year for Bitcoin, right? I remember back in November of which is now almost a year ago, when Bitcoin was at $69,000, and everyone was really excited, and we all thought that Bitcoin is gonna go to a new discovery territory. It's just on the way to 100K. It's so close, right? How could it not get to 100K by the end of this cycle? But disappointed almost everybody, and now here we are. I think um, the rest of 2022, along with the equity markets and the global macroeconomic markets, Bitcoin is it's going to take a hit. It's probably going to be in this lower range for the next 3 to 6 months, and then eventually gradually finding the way to the upside. I don't think there's any immediate rush to say that we're at the bottom or we're close to the bottom. I think the bottom is a very much of a process other than an event. So I think Bitcoin at this price right now, under 20,000, it's in the bottoming range. It's bottoming out. But whether it takes 3 months or 6 months, we have to wait and see. And most importantly, wait and see the macroeconomic situation, because there's a lot of macroeconomic pressures that happened this year with the Fed raising interest rate, doing quantitative tightening, which they've almost never done in the past decade, and a lot of new things that's going on with the possibility of looming global recession, energy crisis, and real humanitarian issues in even countries in Europe, as well as things such as hyperinflation, high inflations that exist almost globally in all the countries in Europe and North America. So there's so many macro issues that we're facing right now, and this uncertainty, this level of uncertainty, it's what's really pushing the prices of almost everything down. So we'll see what happens.
Because that is something I've noticed. Like I've seen other people on YouTube or even on Twitter saying we're back in the bull run. It's going to be 100K Bitcoin happening. But if you do look at the macros of the world, like we have inflation going nuts. Even here in Australia, our interest rates are rising and rising. You've got the wars overseas. You've got the power issues over there. Like I think there's too much going on for this market to start running again. If you look at it from a basic point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think you know there are few people who are still living in the hopium that Bitcoin is going to bottom right now and it's going to just go straight up to $100,000. I don't think that's going to happen. Even if you look at in the last cycle, Bitcoin did not go straight up after it bottoms. There's a period of time that it's still volatile, that it still trades up and down and sideways until it eventually experienced that bull run. The first bull run was probably the later half of 2020, when that's a legitimate bull run that we saw in a Bitcoin cycle. I don't think that bull run is going to happen that quickly. There isn't simply enough demand or bullish factors to push Bitcoin to that kind of bull run in the current macro situation. For that, we need to wait and see what happens. But I do think that the price that Bitcoin is trading right now is cheap, but it could get cheaper, right? I think it's a cheap in considering to the valuation of its, some on-chain matrix, for example, realized value on-chain. It's lower than that, which is I think around $22,000 right now, $22,000. And Bitcoin, it's lower than its 4-year DCA price, which I think is around 21,000, and it's lower than its 5-year DCA price, which is 19,000. So Bitcoin, it's cheap by many standards of valuations that we used to look at Bitcoin's prices. But of course, it could be cheaper. And the bottom, it's always almost an extreme value that is very hard to predict. So we can't precisely say that it's going to bottom at 17K or it's going to bottom at 14K. We don't know that. That depends on the level of extreme volatility that you may experience in that final capitulation. But I do think that the bottoming range that I've given Bitcoin, it's from 14,000 to 21,000. That's the bottoming range I have given out for Bitcoin since May of this year. and I stick to my target that this is the range that Bitcoin is possibly going to find a bottom. Exactly at what price, I'm not sure, but this within this range, I believe it's a great long-term accumulation price for Bitcoin, because I do think that Bitcoin is going to make new all-time high again, which is 69,000, and eventually it's going to make past 100,000 again. So, 14K to 21K, you're getting better than 5x here.
Yeah, there's opportunities for people. Because with these macro issues we have going on, do you see next year, 2023, we're just going to have a lot of sideways action?
I think 2023, it's probably going to get better than 2022. And I say that because the macro situations for the US may be improving in the next 6 to 9 months, which give us enough time to get to Q2 or Q1 of 2023. So the U.S. has been raising interest rate, and it's been pushing the valuations of stocks. It's literally pushing the economy into a recession. I think at one point, if the inflation in the U.S. gets radically controlled by the Fed and they're comfortable at where inflation sits, which I think could happen in the next 6 to 9 months, they're going to ease interest rate again. They're going to cut rates again, and that is going to be a factor that can trigger the next bull run. So, don't fight the Fed. Always follow what the Fed is doing, because the Fed really has got the market on the grip here, and we've seen that validated so many times. But most recently, since 2022, since 2020, we have really seen what the Fed can do. So, as much as I'd like to say that 2023 is going to be better, I think it really depends on the Fed and their actions leading to 2023.
There's a lot of correlation between whatever they do and the crypto market. We've seen that recently, especially when those interest rates came out.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that has to do with the fact that currently Bitcoin is traded as a risk-on asset. So you can probably see the correlation between Bitcoin and risk-on assets such as tech and growth stocks are at a very high range. So it goes, the correlation coefficient goes anywhere from 0.66 to almost 1 at any given time. So very strong correlation between Bitcoin and all those other risk on assets, which is very much affected by the money supply. It's affected by the monetary policy set by the Fed. So all that is very related.
So we recently had the Ethereum merge happening. What was your take on that? Where do you see this going with it from here?
Yeah, so Ethereum is just successfully merged, right? There's a lot of interest leading up to it, and finally they did it. I remember back in 2020, in of 2020, December 2020, they were talking about a merge, and it was going to happen in the next 3 months, but got delayed, obviously, almost by 2 years, and here we are, finally merged, and Ethereum price actually went down a little bit, I think, after the merge. The so far what I can see is that this is a big change of Ethereum. We went from proof of work to proof of stake, and consensus mechanism change is something that is going to affect this blockchain for the entirety of its remaining life. And the biggest change in terms of tokenomics is that the inflation rate of Ethereum went from 3.4% to currently about 0.3%. So that's a very positive change if you're holding Ethereum, because the inflation just dropped by almost 3% here. And there were speculations that Ethereum is at some point going to go deflationary, which means that the token inflation rate is actually going to be negative because of the supply and demand factor of the proof of stake mechanism. All of that is positive. And I think a lot of that has more or less been pressed into the sort of this bull run of Ethereum versus Bitcoin that we saw in the past 3 months. So Ethereum has been running up almost to a cycle high compared to Bitcoin, right? And I think a lot of that has been factored in, that the fact that people think that Ethereum is going to go through this change and its supply is going to get drastically reduced, the inflation rate. But what exactly happened to this protocol, we have yet to see. I think this is still very early. It's week one. Um, I'll say there's a couple of risks that comes with it. The risk of being classified as a security by the SEC or other regulatory bodies. So that remains a risk, a newly existing risk of the proof of stake consensus mechanisms. We also have bullish factors such as institutions and investment funds that could now uh, show more interest in Ethereum, because now Ethereum is carbon zero. It's almost carbon zero, right? It doesn't consume as much electricity as it used to do when it was in proof of work. And also, there's now currently a staking yield going on with Ethereum, which gives us asset cash flow, and that almost always make institutional investors more comfortable when they see there's a yield, there's a cash flow related to an asset they're investing in. So there's a couple of bullish factors with Ethereum, perhaps more than the bearish factors of the merge. So overall, I think it's a very positive development for Ethereum, and I love Ethereum. It's currently my biggest holdings. Second biggest holdings of my own is Bitcoin. So I like them both. I have different investment thesis on both of them, and I'm definitely bullish on Ethereum and the long-term prospect of the merge.
I agree with you on being Ethereum. I'm very bullish on it as well. So I do see it's like a powerhouse of cryptocurrencies. Like Bitcoin started off as that transaction, like people can send money, receive money. Like that's always like the idea behind it. But when Ethereum came along and said we can actually build something on here, people can build other layer twos on here, people can build dApps on here, and you can see it just growing bigger and bigger and better. Do you see the possibility that Ethereum could flip Bitcoin one day as market leader?
I think so. Yeah, I think there is definitely possible that Ethereum flip Bitcoin, which means having a bigger market cap than Bitcoin at a point in time in the future. When exactly that happens, it's really hard to say. But I think, given the different investment thesis behind Bitcoin and behind Ethereum, that very much is a possibility. Bitcoin, like you said, is a storage of value. So the way if you want to value it, I think, looking at comparables such as gold, such as other store of value, this is the way we're valuing it. And historically, the store of value type of assets have a very limited market cap, right? If you look at the gold market cap, it's around $11 trillion, but the assets that actually generate cash, real estate, for example, trillions on the globe, right? These assets that have capability than being a store of value should, in theory, obtain a much larger and accessible market cap than the ones that are being valued as a store of value, which is what Bitcoin, in my opinion, is a store of value. So I think the flipping is very much a possibility in the future.
I've got a would you rather question for you. Would you rather take $50,000 in Bitcoin today or $50,000 in Ethereum? You put into your
I think I would rather take $50,000 in Bitcoin today. And the reason behind it is because I think, looking at the Ethereum to Bitcoin valuation, the trading pair, I think it's at a point where it's at a premium in terms of, I think, where we are in the cycle here. We're in the bear market. We're very deep in the bear market, and I do think that Bitcoin is likely to outperform other altcoins, including Ethereum, at this price.
Well, if I asked you that question in maybe 6 months, 12 months time, might be a different story.
Definitely. It's always a changing, a changing dynamic between Bitcoin and Ethereum. But I think after the past 3 months, this bull run that Ethereum had against Bitcoin, I would like to hold Bitcoin rather than Ethereum. I think Bitcoin, like I said, under 20,000 is very much a buy for me. Ethereum at around $1,500, I don't think it's a buy for me at this point because of the valuation, because where we sit in the bear market, and just the comparative valuation of Ethereum versus other assets. I think Ethereum would personally be a buy for me if Ethereum is around 1,000, lower than 1,000. That would be the price range I'd love to buy Ethereum at.
Another random question for you. If you had
Yep.
$1,000 and you had to buy 5 coins, what would you be looking at buying? And this is the next bull run, not just a quick flip.
Right. So I think it helps to be a little bit more active in the industry, right? That means not just buy and hold forever, but to buy, hold, and see what changes, and then make those changes, and then hold again, and see more changes into what's happening in industry and your portfolio. So I think $5,000, I would probably put 60% of that into Bitcoin, 30% of that into Ethereum, and another 10% into some projects that you think have really high potential. And if you want, you can actually invest that into very early stage projects that are in their seed stages. Maybe buy some coins or tokens that are doing their IDOs, their initial DEX offerings, or putting that money into crypto projects that are really up and coming. So save a little bit of capital for that.
Okay. And I know you've written a book on like how to help people that are getting into crypto. It's like a little article I read you done. I think that was great. But what's some advice you'd give people that are just getting started in crypto, or they're on the edge? They're saying, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it?
I think the biggest advice, or the best advice I would like to tell people who are getting started in this industry or completely new to it, is that we're very much early into this industry. I think overall, if you look at the adoption curve, I believe we are in the early adopter stage. We're crossing over to the early majority stage, perhaps in the next couple of years, and around the time of the next halving. So I think we're very much early in the industry, which means that there's greater amount of upsides to be expected. You're not late. If I see people who say that they didn't buy Bitcoin back in 2017 and they're late, now they can't buy Bitcoin again because the price is too high. That isn't true. That just simply isn't, right? If you look at how far we've come from 2017, even if you bought the top of the last cycle, which is around $19,000 of Bitcoin, you're just got back to ground zero again, right? So, and on the top end, you would have made 3 times of your money at $69,000, 3 times and more, right? So that simply isn't true. Stay tuned for this industry because it is a growing industry. We got a lot of talents in this industry, human capital, and we have a lot of capitals by different venture capital funds, by different renowned investors who injected billions of dollars into this industry, trying to make innovations, trying to make change, trying to merge, Web3 into the widespread world. And the way I see this industry is you gotta see it from long-term perspective. I think not only that we're early, I think we're also the first generations that know about crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain. But the future generations, they're not just gonna know about it; they'll be immersed in it because they're born in this world. They're born in a world where Bitcoin exists, where blockchain is actually being used by people to buy NFTs to facilitate transactions, right? If you think about, everybody who's born after the year 2000, the 2000s babies, um, they're they're around the time they're teenagers now, right? They most definitely heard about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency from TikTok, from various other social media sources, more than they've heard about stocks, right? When it comes to the time when they have purchasing power, when they are the next business leaders to change the world, they're going to be very much more invested into crypto, into blockchain, into this new technology versus the old technology that exists. So it's almost like you're investing something that the future generation is going to value much more than the current generation. And that to me, it's a great long-term investment because you just know there's no way but up, right? So that's my view of looking at this industry long term. That the fact that there's so much to go in this industry is really what gets me up every day. And I'm very much bullish on the long term perspective of the crypto industry. We're so early, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years.
I very much agree with you on being early. Like people say, oh, it's been around 10 years, it's not early. But you look at when Ethereum first came out, how long ago was that? 5, 6 years ago now? Like that wave of innovation is just starting now. Things are just starting to move along and you can just see it growing and growing. And like you said, people in the industry, like look at Binance himself, CZ there. Like he's partnering with Google to build Web3 bigger and better. Like when you see these names, what they're building, sometimes to invest in a person in a project, that's what I believe is a good thing to do for newbies out there because they're actually building things. They want to see growth in the industry. Yeah, early stage for all of us. So if you're in it, guys,
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, Binance it's only 5 years old. Binance started in 2017. Ethereum it's only 6 years old. Ethereum started in 2016. Actually 2015. So 7 years old. But 2016 is when they started trading at exchanges, I think. So like this is so early. We're not even a decade in to the major blockchains or entities that are changing this industry right now.
I find that amazing when you really look at the numbers and how things add up. Like it's just early days, and I think some people they're skeptical of getting involved because they still think it's a bubble, it's going to be a scam. But I think if they dive in now, learn what you can, get absorbed in the industry, you'll blow up in it. It's amazing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for coming on the show today. Like, I really appreciate your time and I love your knowledge and insight into the world of crypto. And hopefully, whoever's watching, you guys absorbed all that. You listen to what he has to say. Follow the links down below. I put him for you because great man in the industry. I do think you are, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me on the show. I had a great time chatting with you, and you seem like a really knowledgeable person of crypto in the crypto industry, and I'm sure we'll all do great things in this industry.
That's what I want to do. Like, I want people to grow, learn about it, and everyone's an opportunity in here. It's one of those industries where you can share. I came from a construction background, and people just wanted to win. They wanted for themselves. There was no one trying to help each other. Well, I've seen crypto, I've seen industry, I've seen where everyone tries to get along, everyone's able to help each other, and there's room for all of us. So that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. The culture is very fun, right? If you're on Twitter a lot, you're immersed in the crypto Twitter scene, and it's almost like a metaverse in a way. Being on crypto Twitter, you're your avatars, and you interact with these different parties like SBF and Suzu. You can actually talk to these people, which is quite fun.
Yeah. No, I really, really love having you on the show. Like, I look forward to having you on again in the future, hopefully. And yeah, keep in contact for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me again.
Nice, thanks for coming on. Catch you later.
All right. Goodbye.
Yeah. One very good interview, if you ask me. Not because I was in it, but Ed from Venture Founder. Great knowledge he's given you guys, great understanding of the market out there, and a good prediction on what could be happening in the future world of crypto. All right? Some ideas for you guys to think about. So if you want to learn more about Ed, you want to follow his content, his links are down below. Click it and follow the man. I love his content, so should you guys. And if you're new to crypto and you're just watching this and you want to learn more, you want to understand more, he's written this awesome manifesto for you guys. It's the 12 pillars of advice for a new investor in crypto. So get in there and read it. It's completely free and it's very, very good read. And it's going to help you, especially when you're new to the space, you're a bit scared about it, scared of what to do or where to go, or your mind's not completely made up on it. Read this. Great understanding on what you can do. Give you some key points to take away from it, and you've got to make your plan from it. Okay? Read it. Follow him on Twitter and get involved in the space. And guys, don't forget, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more content coming out. See you later.